Hello and welcome to Dreamy Thatch Grove. I am Bryn, and it is lovely as always to have you here. I think that if you clicked on this video, if you're here right now, I think there's a good chance that you've probably been carrying a very quiet but very consuming kind of shame for a while. Just that heavy, overwhelming feeling of, why is this so hard for me? I know it can feel almost humiliating in a way when you know that there are things that are simply easier for other people, maybe even for most other people. And there are things that you have to do, but then there are also things that you just want to do. Maybe even things that you know would make you feel better or make it easier for you in some way or another. And yet it's like your body just won't move. The mind won't organize, or the energy just won't show up. It's like there is a misfiring in motivation, where the raw motivation itself is not seeming to lend itself to action. And it can feel confusing, it can feel frustrating, it can even just feel embarrassing. It can feel lonely. And I want you to know that I understand, and I see it. The thing that you're feeling is very likely executive dysfunction, which I assume you already know, or you probably would not have clicked on this. Now, obviously, I am not a doctor, and more importantly, I am not your doctor. So, please take this with a healthy grain of salt, of course. We're just here to chat and commiserate a little bit, release some pressure. But I think it's helpful to remember the cause. For most people, the process of motivation is one where you feel a flood of anticipatory chemicals, like reward chemicals, from the idea of completing a task. And that jolt of reward chemicals is what helps them to actually do it, to actually start and move. And so people who have always experienced that firing correctly have a hard time sympathizing with people for whom that does not function properly. For a lot of us, and I presume for you, even though the logical motivation is there, you are not experiencing the neurochemical reaction that is supposed to happen there, that floods you with the reward chemicals before you begin. And that's largely what the issue is. In a practical sense, what it feels like is when your brain knows what needs to happen, or maybe even what you want to happen. But the part that initiates into action just doesn't respond. And that is not laziness. It's not from a lack of discipline. It is not a moral failure. That is a nervous system that is overloaded and tired and trying to protect you, and it is not receiving those happy chemicals that it's supposed to. I want you to know that, at least for the sake of this video, for the time you are here with me, I want you to remember that you do not need to earn relief from this feeling. There is nothing to earn. There is nothing to do. And I understand you completely here. I also briefly want to bring up a very similar function, and that is, or dysfunction, and that is called pathological demand avoidance. It is very similar, particularly in the initiation of tasks. It is that feeling where expectations, even small ones, any kind of expectations, it could be like, it could be big ones like needed for your job, or something you need to like, it could be like, the deadlines to file taxes, it could be big like that, or it could even be small, soft things like an arbitrary deadline you set up for yourself, any kind of expectation. Your nervous system responds to it like it is a threat. And so it settles into that avoidance, because that is the only way it knows how to feel safe. And I think maybe it's difficult because it's so similar in so many ways, but I think probably that deserves its own separate video. So if that resonates too, please know that you're not being difficult. That is just your nervous system responding in an attempt to keep you safe from what it perceives as a threat. And that it is possible over time to relieve some of that reaction. But we're not trying to solve anything tonight. The best thing you can do for this feeling tonight is let yourself know it is safe for you to rest. It is safe for you to rest. And if you've been judging yourself harshly for not keeping up, maybe for struggling even with basic care of the self, maybe for needing what you perceive as more rest than others, please sit in the knowledge that struggling is not the same thing as failing. And I know how vague and stupid that can sound when you know that there are pieces of life that you are kind of failing at objectively. I know. Truly, it's almost hard to put into words what I mean, because it can feel really invalidating to disagree with what feels like obvious and observable things. And I promise I do know that feeling, and I recognize that sometimes, oftentimes, these are dysfunctions that really do bump into some of the core necessary things to build a healthy and safe life for yourself. I know that. But being stuck does not mean that you are incapable. To be upset that it's harder for you than it should be, and that people who've never had to deal with this just sort of don't understand and seem to not want to understand. You are only human. You are only human in a world that is asking too much, even of people who have the luxury of functioning normally. You do not need to be productive to deserve care. And you can't earn rest, because rest is a basic human need. You can't earn necessities. It is your right to rest. So I am very glad that you are here with me. Right now you can stop trying to push through. You can stop negotiating with yourself, or punishing yourself, or making promises that you don't have the energy to keep. You are in this moment with me right now, and nothing bad is going to happen if you allow yourself gentleness today. Your worth is not on the line tonight. You are allowed to pause. You're allowed to do less. And you're allowed to do it without explaining why. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't owe me an explanation even. And you don't need to explain, because I understand. I see it. It is worth remembering, on some level at least, that this frozen feeling is not actually your enemy. It is just a signal. And it's not asking for action, it's asking for rest. More importantly, it's asking for safety. It feels unsafe. And there are a lot of factors that go into that. And again, not a doctor. I am not a doctor. So I'm not going to try to over-explain the actual psychological phenomenon and neurochemical phenomenon going on. But I do know that for the short term of it, it is asking for safety. And so that is something that you and I together can try to help provide it for tonight. We're not going to try and fix anything. We're not going to try and cure anything. Right now, we're just going to soften. Let your body soften into the surface, holding you up. Let yourself feel the gentle press of gravity holding you in place. And if you feel comfortable doing so, consider slowing your breath, focusing on elongating your exhale, and most especially on when you inhale, feeling your breath lower in your belly than you usually do. Breathing in low into the belly, feeling that sensation, and then slowing your exhale just a bit. You do not have to breathe along with me, but I'm just going to take a couple slower breaths for you to listen to. Because even hearing slower breathing can help your nervous system calm down. Of gravity holding you in place, and feeling the breath flow in your belly. You are not behind in life. There are no deadlines for being a person in this world. You are not behind. You are not a disappointment to anyone who holds compassion for you. You are not a disappointment to anyone who is holding true compassion for you. You are not wasting your life. I promise you are not wasting your life. You are allowed to take up space, even in the stillness. And you are still worthy, even when you are stuck. You are worthy. You are worthy. Even when you are stuck, you are worthy. This feeling is not a punishment. This feeling is the root of your inaction, not the consequence. This feeling is the root of your inaction, not the consequence of it. This feeling is not a punishment. This feeling is not a punishment. don't need to punish yourself to earn compassion or deserve compassion. You don't need to prove your goodness through productivity. You are allowed to exist without justification. You are allowed to exist without justification. Even now, you are not broken. Even like this, you are not broken. You are still good. You are still good. You are still worthy, and you still have potential. I promise you still have potential. I say this in like a third of my videos, and I'm going to keep saying it. Your future is real, and there is joy in it. I promise. Your future is real, and there is joy in it. You don't need to solve anything tonight. You don't need a plan or a cure or a solution. You just let your nerves settle. Let your shoulders drop. Let your breathing slow. There's no demands, no expectations. There's nothing to do but simply to be. Let yourself simply be with me in this moment. And if you'd like, you can drift off into dreams, or you can remain just as you are right now. Whatever you'd like, whatever you're comfortable with. And as always, you can stay right here with me for as long as you need. I am always happy to have you here. And there's nothing for you to do. I am simply